before lock show. We'll be taking you through the days, however many games, more than 12, I think. 12? Yeah, 12 games on today's slate. Lots to dig through, lots to talk about. I'm Chris Spags, joined good pals, the baseball savant himself, Mr. Jake Hari. How are you doing, Jake?
Good, good. Fun time of year. NHL playoffs, MLB going on, just kicking into things, and then the Masters. I don't know. Are you a big golf fan? This week, at least?
I'm not. I enjoy the hungover golf watching as
All
much
right.
as any average American gentleman will, but I'm not. Are you playing the Masters tournament?
Yeah, I played some DFS, of course. Hopefully, it'll give me something to watch on Sunday. Maybe I'll have a couple lineups competing, but tossed in 150 into the low dollar, the mini max and such, just to get my foot wet. But yeah, I'm not super serious about watching it. I will on Sunday, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it is that time of year. And of course, one of the main places that people are playing the Masters this year are on Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Of course, one of the better sites out there offering reduced management fees across the board. So go check it out. Unfortunately, I don't have the link because they haven't given us any sponsor stuff yet. But go check out Yahoo Daily Fantasy and go support the people who support this show and help keep the lights on. We got a ton of games to go through, Jake, so let's talk about some up front. Obviously, the deeper dive guys went at great depth just before us, do the fantastic job they always do. Let's talk about, I guess, where your crunches are shaking out so far, Jake. We got a bunch of pitching options, some really high-priced guys who look good, like Carrasco and Patrick Corbin, some guys on the cheaper end who look terrible, but maybe you just need to get to in order to make lineups work. So what are you landing on with pitchers so far, Jake?
Yeah, some cheaper guys that look terrible. Maybe like a Drew Pomeranz. Is that who you're talking about? Or maybe, I mean, Thornton looks okay. I don't know where I'm at exactly on like an Erod. But yeah, those guys did a great job of kind of breaking down the pitching. As far as exposure for me, it's looking like I'm going to be pretty spread out, like no pitcher above 45 to 50%, and then just kind of a very steady decline after that. So trying to filibuster a little bit so I can get to my exposures. Computer's moving just a little slow, but I think our connection's actually pretty good. Yep, no drop frames, so we're on the fast track.
Hey, good job, team. Good job, production hamsters who make the stream work.
Just my 18 million tabs in Google Chrome is probably what's making my internet a little slow. But yeah, unfortunately, so I don't know if we've talked about him quite a bit, but last year I was a big Luke Weaver hater, but he's a guy who grades out well in the projections on the site. And even in like the stuff that I look at, he's actually okay, I think, for 7,400, not a guy I'm super excited about. If he was going to be super chalky, I would probably just find another pitcher that maybe projects worse, but 15%-ish ownership I think is okay for him. Hap I really like against the White Sox. They just K a ton against both sides. I mean, just a great chance for a win here for Hap as well. And then I don't think his price is too restrictive at 9,200 on DK. Carrasco, a guy who just has huge strikeout upside, as you saw in his last start. I think 5 innings, 12 Ks. I mean, just the swinging strike machine when he's on. And then Pomeranz is kind of my fourth guy, which is really scary. He's only projecting for just over 10% ownership. I think it might be a little bit more than that. But I know the guys who do the ownership projections are a lot smarter than I am. So I'm going to go with 11%. I think that would be a pretty good spot to take advantage of just a Colorado team that really doesn't hit well outside of Coors.
Yeah, we just saw what Jeff Samardzija did to them yesterday in a similar spot. I think actually the exact same team total according to Vegas, or maybe a little bit lower. But either way, we just saw a worse pitcher than Pomeranz. Pomeranz no great shakes, but at least he does get strikeouts, and Samardzija doesn't really do that, and he still destroyed them and had one of the better nights on the night. So I'm comfortable going back to Pomeranz today, even though it hurts me, and I didn't get there today because I did get burned by some Rocky stacks yesterday. I do think today might be a day to go back to some Rockies because I think people will trust Pomeranz after seeing that performance and wanting to go back there. And Pomeranz is also the second cheapest pitcher on Yahoo, so that is something noteworthy. Not quite there on DraftKings and FanDuel, but I think on Yahoo in particular, Pomeranz would be very appealing. In terms of cheap guys, though, at pitcher, I'll tell you a couple of guys who I have just because I think they make some lineups work on DraftKings. Chad Bettis, I have some of. I have also some terrible-ass Lucas Giolito, some equally terrible, less but equally terrible David Hess. I have some of all those guys at a max 20 today. The prices are just impossible to avoid for me, and that may be the mistake I make today. But I do think one of these guys out of Bettis, Giolito, and Hedges will have an okay day. What are you feeling about the very, very cheap tier on DraftKings, and are you going to have any of those three?
Yeah, Giolito is probably the guy I'm most likely to get to. I just don't think Hess and Bettis are very talented, and I actually think like there's a path to 20-point success on DK for Giolito. So there's obviously a ton of downside for him, but I think if things go well for him, he's a guy who could potentially break the slate in that there are a bunch of expensive bats, and assuming a couple of those stacks go off, you're really going to need production out of your cheap pitcher. So I like the Giolito call. I'm not exactly there with Hess or Bettis.
Yeah, to me, they're all just dice tosses. I think Giolito, you could certainly make the argument for. And again, the Deeper Dive guys did a good job, as they always do. And tune into that show beforehand. Really watch these two shows back to back, because I think they go hand in hand together. So we're all jumping off from the same information point. But yeah, Giolito with the wind blowing out at 15 miles per hour. David Riggs points out in the YouTube chat. Yeah, the wind certainly doesn't help, but Spags is on crack for Hess. I think that's a strong take. We are obviously a straight edge show as much as any out there. But look, Hess, to be clear, Hess I have 2 lineups of out of 20, just because he's so cheap and he made me some really nice stacks on both sides that I liked. But overall, I think they're terrible plays. I think Giolito's more defensible, but it's a tournament. You're just trying to get a little different, and going to Hess, I think, is one move that makes your lineup different. Just not one that, even as somebody who's playing Hess, I would not advocate for that at much depth. Bettis, though, I agree is terrible. I think you could defend that a little more going against the Giants.
Yeah, I get the Bettis one. So he would be the second guy out of Giolito, Bettis, and Hess for me. So I have Bettis. Like, I just don't think he's going to get any strikeouts, which is the problem. He's a guy who struggles with walks too, so he can get in trouble really quick. Even like he's like his own worst enemy sometimes. So I hate taking a ton of pitchers like that. So I guess I'll just take the one that I think is the most talented in Giolito out of those guys. And where am I at on Giolito? So he's around 5% ownership. I'm at 15 or so. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. I'm not like going 60% Giolito and just, or going all in or something like that. I don't think you need to get an edge on him.
Yeah, so our guy Sean V, don't worry, you're not getting. I don't know if you missed this yesterday, Jake, but there was a roast of Sean V that went on the show.
I caught a little bit of that.
We all got up to the dais, but Sean V in the chat talking about Jake Arrieta. So Jake Arrieta is a guy who I agree on paper looks pretty bad, and I actually do have just one Miami stack going against him. But that's mostly a hedge stack for me, because Arrieta does look pretty appealing just because of the team total here. Being in Miami obviously doesn't hurt either, but just a pretty good spot for him overall, and I don't mind going to him at his price. It's a little bit high on DraftKings. Let me check on the other sites. But for me on DraftKings, I think he's worth having some exposure to, even though I do hate him, and I think he looks pretty bad. In the spot versus Miami, like, he's working for me just because of that Vegas total.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, he's another guy I just can't stand. Arrieta, I understand it here, but he's almost 9K on DK. On Yahoo, he is, he's at 37. So, I don't know. I mean, I'd rather just take Erod at that same price tag, or someone I think has a ton of upside. I mean, could Arrieta get you 20 plus here? I think it's possible just because of how poor this Marlins lineup is. You look at their strikeout rate against righties so far this season. I think it's at 32%. But Arrieta's
at 33.
Yeah, Arrieta's just not missing bats, which is the problem for me. So maybe those two numbers regress in this start. Maybe Arrieta gets you 4 or 5 Ks. I think that's plausible. I just don't know how he kills me for not having him at 8,800 here, or 37 on Yahoo.
Yeah, I think to me the thing is it's so hard to afford Carrasco and Corbin on DraftKings that I'm willing to go to some of these guys who are just maybe not going to have the worst days in the world. Like Brett too. Like, he's really not a guy who I think you ever want much of, but he's got a good team total supporting him. The Indians not hitting anything right now. I guess maybe you could say Carlos Santana, but besides that, nobody's hitting anything. So I don't mind going to Keller here. Also, Kansas City not going to be as warm as it's been recently, so that also helps a little bit. Like, I think that's the slate to me, is like trying to get these guys in who will at least not kill you, because I think
Yeah.
some of the guys tonight may end up killing you, and it's hard to afford the pitchers who won't, who just are very unlikely to do so.
Yeah, I think for me, again, I keep coming back to Giolito, but if I'm going to go to one of these guys, it's probably going to be him just because, first of all, the ownerships are all similar. They're all all these guys we're talking about are 5 or less % owned. If we were going to see a Giolito 20+% or 30% chalk day, like we have seen before at this price, I would probably be less likely to use him and just kind of do what you're doing and allocate shares to Hess and Keller and guys like that. But the ownership looks similar, at least right now. So for me, it's pretty easy to just take a little bit of a stand on Giolito, but not put all my stock in him. I don't want my night resting on Giolito getting me 15, 20 points here. I think if he fails, I'll still have 85% of my lineups and hopefully can make some noise with those.
Yeah, that seems fair. One other pitcher I feel like is worth mentioning while we're talking about the area at a price here. Urias for the Dodgers to me looks interesting again. The Brewers are a terrifying team to me. They're hitting really well to start the year across the board. Yelich's lefty-righty splits blew my mind looking at him today. He really doesn't get any worse hitting versus lefties. A little bit, as you would expect, but not anywhere close to most other players with their splits. So there's some real risk going to Urias today, but it's just a nice Vegas total, 3.6, one of the lower ones on the day. He's priced much less than Carrasco and Corbin, who are both at 3.4 expected going against them. And I think Urias could be an interesting play today. I think the lefty splits, again, worry me a little, but, he's a lefty. You're going to assume lefties aren't going to hit him that well. I don't mind Urias today, and I think he's at least a pivot who I would consider on a par with Arrieta, and I actually have a little more Urias.
Interesting. Well, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, I mean, Urias, is it Urias or Urias? I don't know.
Whatever. We do this every time.
Yeah, I know.
It's whichever one you want to go with. Follow your heart.
Yeah. I just like to get it right, but, I'm going to be wrong 80% of the time. So he is 8,700 on DK. I mean, usually the Dodgers starting pitcher is projected to get the win more often than not, especially the last couple of years. So you see these low totals against them all the time. It's more of a pitcher's park than a hitter's park, especially this time of year. So 4.1 total might look great. I just worry about the upside with Urias just because he threw 74 and 77 pitches in his first 2 games. He's not projecting out that well for me, even when I try to give him a little bit of increased innings. So for me, it's just a little bit too steep of a price for me to get to a ton of him here.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think what jumped out to me more was his swinging strike rate and his chase rate. And this lineup too for the Brewers, at least the one, I don't think this is the official one yet. It hasn't been confirmed yet. Right? The Brewers have not been confirmed? No, they have not yet. Okay. So yeah, I don't think it's a perfect spot for him. But again, on this slate, I'm just trying to find some guys who aren't going to have a ton of ownership on him who maybe could spike an upside. And the Brewers also, their overall strikeout rate, pretty much everybody in the order striking out less than league average. Really Grandal, the only guy who's striking out more. And if you want to spin some revenge game narratives, he is going back to Dodger Stadium, so that's something to consider as well. Maybe that'll drive his strikeout rate down or up. I guess it could go either way for that. But yeah, I don't know. I think Urias is in a very interesting spot to me at under 5% ownership. If people are going to be on these various guys all around, at least he's got some potential, I think.
Yeah, I got to a little bit of him. Just because I think he's a really, really talented pitcher, and he's going to be really good at some point, just when they kind of take the reins off him. And we haven't seen him do that just yet and allow him to go 6+ innings. So that's my only concern. It's Dave Roberts as well. I always talk about how frustrating he is. You always see his pitchers get pulled at 79 pitches through 5 innings when they're cruising. And that certainly could happen here, even if things go well for him. So I just worry that the upside's a little bit limited, but the ownership probably does make up for that. So kind of dismissed him at first, but now looking at it a little bit more, maybe he does deserve a few shots in tournaments.
And also Brandon Bowling saying Urias in the chat, which honestly is it. I have a thing, though, where I don't love to overly accent things, because even though I'm a little bit Puerto Rican, I'm really not. I feel like a bit of an asshole.
Exactly. That's how I feel, too.
But I just feel like a bit of a jerk being doing too much of a flair on these things while we're doing the show. So that's why I'll default to the most generic reading of the names I can.
Yeah.
Let's talk about stacks, Jake. So
Sure.
I'm going with a ton of Oakland today. I think this matchup versus Smiley looks really good. I think both sides you could make a case for Texas and Oakland, but I like them quite a bit. I think they're a little bit less owned at least than the Boston and New York stacks, which also have some popularity on them. I just like the spot a lot for Oakland. I think you could stack them a variety of ways to try to differentiate. So they're my top stack on the day. What are you getting the most on your crunches?
Yeah, it's gonna look like a lot of Boston for me initially this morning, and it looks like it's gonna shake out that way as well. So it looks like Boston and Oakland, they've kind of closed the gap as far as like clearly the highest owned stacks on the night, at least as far as team ownership goes. Um, we do have the stack rankings out. Maybe I could pull those up in a little bit. You guys are seeing the lineup builder right now. But yeah, I like Boston over Oakland. They're just, I know Oakland's been hot lately, but if it's going to be close, like give me JD and Mookie and Benintendi against good old David Hess. We saw his blow up start. He can blow up with the best of them, and then you've got a really bad Baltimore bullpen behind him. So I'm going with Boston as my chalkier stack. It looks like you're going with Oakland. So one of us has got to be right?
I would think so. I just think, how could you look at Drew Smiley's numbers and not want to stack against them? Like from any side of the plate, it's a limited sample size so far, but is he really going to turn it around? He's not missing bats even remotely. I find that a little bit hard to believe. And the big run total as well. It's just behind the other one, so I feel like it's not getting overlooked necessarily, but everything about that part checks out. Yeah, what else? What about the Texas side for you? Because Fires, I think, is another guy who jumps out as being stackable against. And the deeper dive guys were talking about Texas at some length, and they are going to have some ownership on them with Ronit Odor projected to be the highest owned out of that group, being at 22% on DraftKings. What are you thinking about the Texas side?
Yeah, I really love the Texas side. Anytime Fires is out of Oakland, since he's gone over there, like his numbers are going to look good pitching in O.co, I think. So like I'll target him in some home starts, but when he's on the road in good hitting weather in Texas, where we don't get a lot of good hitting weather, and guys that are swinging for the fences every time, like Gallo and Odor you mentioned, hard for me to kind of avoid Texas here. So yeah, I'm all over them. Maybe a little bit below the field on Oakland, but Boston and Texas, I am definitely there.
All right, so we talked about some of the main guys. Give me somebody a little off the reservation. I'll give you my one first. I think going against Kyle Wright, who we had just last Friday, and it worked out fine, but that was a better Vegas total supporting Kyle Wright today. He's got 4.6 runs projected against him by Vegas, and I think it's a good spot to go against Kyle Wright. I wish Pete Alonso were in there. Unfortunately, he is out of this lineup for today, which you want the polar bear in there. I'm very big on the Pete Alonso thing so far. He's been great for me so many times where like I'm fully ride or die for Pete Alonso. But he's not in there. But this team still looks really good. Kyle Wright still looks really bad. What about you? What stacks? A Mets stack or anybody else who's going to be lower owned or you're coming up with a lot?
So that was actually one of the off the radar ones I had. I agree.
There we go.
On the
Great
Kyle
minds.
Wright. Yeah, I don't have him being very good yet. I don't know if that's going to change at some point, but right now I think that the Mets should be a team you should attack. I know they mentioned Cano on the deeper dive. I really like that play. $15 on Yahoo compared to like Conforto, who's $24. Ramos, one of the better hitting catchers. Dominic Smith is a guy who doesn't make contact a ton, but when he does, it can go a really long way. And then I like McNeil as well leading off. So just the combination of all these guys individually I like against Wright makes it pretty easy for me to get to a Mets stack. So it looks like we're right on the same page with that one.
Yeah, I think that one's interesting too. And yeah, I like also honestly going to the bottom of it. You probably don't have to because there isn't a lot of ownership. Though Nimmo, I guess a little bit under 10% is going to have some ownership on him. But I think you can go a couple different ways with the stack too, which is what I try to look for. The one guy though who I'm sort of not getting to a lot out of that grouping, and it could be a mistake because he actually does project pretty well according to our projections at Osmo.com. Robinson Cano is the guy I'm comfortable skipping over in the stack. I just don't like what he's doing so far this year, and it should level out, but I'm not buying into him so far, at least from what I'm seeing. Yeah.
What are you not buying into?
So he's hitting just really poor year, just getting on base just 220, get his batting average right now 150, so he's not getting hits, he's not getting on base. I think everybody else jumps out more to me, and I guess it should just level out, but I just think on paper I'm not loving what I see with him, and I'd rather get down to Dominic Smith. So that's sort of how my lineups kind of ended up with less Cano, but getting down to Smith.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's a bad trade at all. I mean, if you think he's overpriced, then go with the guy that's underpriced, that's hitting a couple spots in the order behind him. I've always liked Cano just because I love the hard hit percentage. I'm kind of a sucker for all that. And he's a guy who's always been at the top of my list. He's a guy who has like a 45% hard hit rate against righties, especially over these last few years. So I haven't looked at his stuff just yet. I haven't started incorporating a ton of 2019 data into what I look at. But yeah, if that percentage is down, and like you said, his on-base percentage continues to stay down, his average, and his strikeout rate, if that starts to go up, then yeah, maybe he's a little bit over the hill at this point. So I don't think you're off with that, especially if that continues.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly can level out, and obviously the baseball is a game where you're expecting things to regress to the mean more often than not. But for right now, I think the other hitters make me a little more comfortable going against Kyle Wright, and that's really the only reason why. But so I still have a little bit of Cano, and I think that's probably the right approach. We are at the halfway point. We'll talk more about stacks and pitchers in a moment, and also, of course, take your questions closer to the end of the show. But we are going to do our home run picks, and you know what? Yesterday, a certain person continued his torrid home run pace of three times correct out of 8. So we're a little under 50%, but I think I will take that. Mitch Moreland did come through yesterday and another good home run spot today, but he will not be my pick. But I'll let you go first, Jake, because I'm a gentleman.
All right. Let me get to my crunch here. I don't have a fancy home run model like you and Josh, but let's see where I'm at. I don't want to pick a chalky one. I think I did the other night, and people got mad at me. Is this chalky? I don't know. I mean, he's a 6-hole hitter, but I'll take a Red Sox. It's a chalk team. I don't know how chalky he is. I haven't looked at his ownership in a while, but Rafael Devers, I like to dong off David Hess here.
I have some exposure there. I have no issue with that. Nice run total, everything supporting that. Yeah, I really don't have a debate. I won't tack on to your Boston picks because I just feel like I'm so heavy on Oakland today. I have to go. Same thing as yesterday. Sure. I was heavy on Boston, and I went with Mitch Moreland today. Heavy on Oakland, and this is a tough one again, which didn't work out for me the last time with Chris Davis. I have more Matt Chapman, so I'm gonna go Matt Chapman. Okay. I think. Yeah, it's a tough call because honestly, him, Canha, and Davis all look really strong to me, and Chapman actually have to have the lowest probability out of the 3, but I still just like Chapman more for that reason, I guess. So I'll go Matt Chapman. And if it's Davis or Canha, I will be very upset. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm a big Matt Chapman fan, so I like that.
Yeah, that stacks me. Just looking at it now, I'm like, I feel good about this. So when Drew Smiley has 9 innings of shutout ball, let's remember that I'm extra hurt by it. So just pour one out on the floor in case that does come through. Let's see. Questions in the premium Slack. I'm checking out. And if you're not a premium member right now, use the promo code LiveBeforeLock on Awesemo.com. Get all the ownership projections and rankings and projections from Awesemo. All that stuff coming straight from the source himself. So go check it out now. Use the promo code LiveBeforeLock. Get half off your first month. And yeah, all the premium content there. You get an all sport pass, get every single sport. Jake is still doing NHL playoff stuff. Yes. We are going to have NBA playoff content. Actually, I learned today my content that I'll be doing for the NBA will be behind the paywall as well. So I'll be doing some premium playoff stuff for that in the written form. So go get in there now. Promo code LiveBeforeLock. What did I get? What did we get slacked? Let's see there.
Drew Pomeranz is a cheap pitcher on FanDuel. How cheap are we talking?
He's cheap on Yahoo and FanDuel then, I guess.
He is Pomeranz, San Francisco, 65. Wow, that is really cheap. Normally, for me, I like to pay up if I can on FanDuel, just because there's a lot of soft pricing with bats, and you can mix and match your stacks with lower owned stacks and such, like we talked about. But 6,500, I mean, you're going to be able to get a really different lineup than the people that go to like a J.A. Happ, or some of these guys that are even 2 or 3K more expensive than Carrasco. So yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think the win equity is good for Pomeranz. It's a good park, and if he just kind of has a little bit above average start for him and he gets you like 35-40, you're probably okay. You need your bats to go off anyways, so you might as well have the best ones there and take a couple Pomeranz chances on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think at his price on FanDuel and Yahoo both, I think he's worth taking a shot at more, especially with you have 2 pitchers on Yahoo. I think that's certainly a spot to want to go to him more. But yeah, I think overall, I agree with you on FanDuel. It's a little bit tougher of a play just because you do have the upside there of Carrasco and Corbin being noticeably higher, and even some of the other guys potentially. But But at that price and potentially having the upside, and again, what we just saw with Samardzija yesterday, I really don't have any issue with going with Pomeranz on any of the sites today, even though that hurts to say.
He's a guy I just hate too. That's why I hate it, and I hate that I'm on him and people are on him too. So I don't like being the second or third guy, like jump on the guy after he's already had good starts. But I also hate jumping on a guy I don't like when he's gonna be owned.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's really the Vegas thing that was like, I mean, not a tiebreaker, but what guided me there in the first place. Where, and it does feel bad. Like honestly, the Samardzija thing, the fact that everybody was talking about him,
Right.
like, why is he going to have ownership? He sucks. He's not good. And then he ended up having like probably his best pitching performance overall in literal years. It's hard not to see the same potential for Pomeranz, and Pomeranz I think has better stuff overall, but it does feel dirty and very risky in a way, which
Yeah. Very dirty.
Fun for a Friday. Good reason to drink. Because south.
Right.
What else stack wise we getting to? Give me one other one that you're landing on more than you think the public will. It's a little weird.
All right. So I just got done running 100 lineups here just to kind of see where I'm at now with these new ownerships and such. Did we talk about where are they at? Yeah, they're up against Wheeler. Okay, Atlanta. Someone mentioned them in chat. That's why I just have them on my mind. But I am getting to some Atlanta stacks against Wheeler. And Wheeler's actually a guy I really, really love. But I think we're getting Atlanta at an ownership that I'm really comfortable playing them at. So if you can pair, like if you get two cheap pitchers on DK, and you can pair like a Boston or an Oakland with a 2 or 3 man Atlanta stack and get a unique lineup, I'm really interested in that. So it's just more of a difference in lineup construction type stack for me, and maybe you don't have to full stack it. I think I really respect Wheeler as a pitcher, like I said, but I do see an opportunity for this to go pretty south for him just based on how many good hitters Atlanta has in that lineup.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Atlanta's been hitting really well to start the year, and being at home certainly doesn't hurt either. And Wheeler too, not missing bats well to start the year, just a 7.6% swinging strike rate, chase rate of 21.2%, and that should level out a little bit closer to his usual, but that's noticeably down from where he is in general. So I don't mind going there, giving up a good amount of walks and hits as well. And Atlanta, just a good team. As we saw yesterday, you had to have Acuna in your lineup to do anything. And I think that could certainly be the case for some of these guys here. So I don't have a problem with that. But I do like the Mets side a little bit more, though, to be honest.
No, I think that's okay. That's some of the better hitting weather we've got on the slate, 75 degrees. That's about as good as you can ask for at this time of year. So I think that game has a chance to go off a little bit.
Question here, and we didn't touch on it up front, but any concerns for you with the weather, Jake? You do have a couple games which have been in the red on various weather reporting sites and in the yellow, and I guess we still have a few that are in the red.
Yeah, the Pirates game, I believe. Let me check on this. I believe the Pirates game. Yeah, Pirates Nats. I saw that on the rankings on our site, those had a postponement chance. So that makes me concerned, to say the least. I'm probably still going to run out some national stacks because they were a stack that I did look at as one that I kind of wanted to play. I know people don't target against Williams that much, but they were grading out pretty well for me as a stack based on some of these prices that we're getting, like Dozier at 3,800 and Zimmerman for 4K. So, yeah, that's the one I'm concerned about. Yankees as well. I don't think that one's that big of a concern, but let me just take another look here, make sure I'm not lying. Did you see any other ones besides those?
No, I think those are the two. I'm a little bit worried about my amount of Corbin now that we have this being a real risk, and also the Dodgers lineup just came out too, in case somebody needs that. Sure, we all do.
Yes, we all do. Let me. Okay, looks like. Maybe not. Maybe that game isn't a big postponement risk, because we were just updated 2 minutes ago, and it looks like it's going to be okay. So, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, do you want to tell the people? You want to tell the people why you find it to be okay? Because we did talk about that today in our. Sure. We had an internal call today discussing things to talk about, and got some helpful information from the boss man himself, Osimo. So
sure.
Tell the people what you're seeing.
Yeah. Okay. So what we have is on the projections, MLB DFS projections for DraftKings and FanDuel. We have on the site, it's a premium feature. So you've got your point projections, you've got the position, team, and then there's a column called postponement. And what the guys behind the scenes do, and Alex plays a big role in this, is they basically just post a number there. If it's 0, that means there's no risk. If there's another number in there, that means there might be a risk. So the higher the number, obviously, the greater the risk. And what that does is just like you can make a multiplier of, if you want to decrease the guy's projection by 10% or whatever, if you think that maybe there's a chance it doesn't, the game doesn't go off or doesn't finish or whatever, you can see that on just one spreadsheet. So super valuable for me. It's just a quick look at everything, so you don't have to go on every radar. We kind of allow you to see everything right in front of you on this projections page.
Yep, so go check that out. That is a new feature on the site as well. And I think that's one that we are currently expecting some concern for, but maybe not enough. And currently none on the New York game, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing nothing all over the place. So I definitely trust what is on those pages. So for me, I'm just playing the slate straight up unless something changes drastically in the next 25 minutes.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye peeled, and obviously anybody who has some thoughts, feel free to chime in and leave your thoughts in there. Herbie Medina, I'm in New York, scattered showers here. There you go.
Yeah,
thanks, reporter. Herbie Medina, our reporter out in New York, checking in. We appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's any huge postponement concerns. We might have a delay, or if it starts in a delay. Oftentimes, I think you mentioned this on the show yesterday, and I meant to say something that I agree with you. But in general, for me, if a game starts in a delay, unless it's going to rain for a long time, that's usually a good sign. I mean, there are obviously cases where they'll start in a delay and, the rain will keep coming, and they'll just decide to call it once all the fans start leaving or whatever. But for me, if the Yankees game starts in a delay, I think they're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, I think that seems fair to me. Let's see if we've got any questions here. Anything good? People enjoying themselves and their Friday celebration. Won't say what that person's doing.
Yeah.
What about cash? Let's talk a little bit about cash today, because I think it might be an interesting day to talk about that. We don't talk enough about cash probably, and cash for baseball is a bit of a proposition. Do you play cash at all for baseball, Jake?
I do not. Do you?
I don't. I do for basketball. I actually picked it up for basketball because I realized. So really, the one thing you have going for you in cash in general, if you are a member of Osmo.com, is the ownership projections. Yeah. That is really, for baseball in particular, a great baseline. But for basketball rather in particular, baseball too, though, you get to differentiate the stacks or find the stacks, find the ownership, try to chase that around, take guys you trust with that. But I guess if you're going with the cash game pitcher today, which would be the one that you'd want to pay up for the most, that you trust the most?
So I think if all else fails in cash, and I know this isn't a perfect strategy, but you want to get some sort of high expected ownership guys. I know what some people do in cash, and maybe this isn't the sharpest idea, but you just try to jam in as much ownership as possible. So for me, if I was building a cash lineup, I would basically go into Fantasy Cruncher, upload the ownerships, and create a column, and then just see which lineups give me the most projected ownership, and kind of pick out a cash lineup that I like with that. So for me, looking at what we have right now, Carrasco and Happ are probably your top end cash options. They are the two highest exposed players right now on our ownership projections. For hitters, it's looking like a mixture of some of these Red Sox bats. Odor sticks out on DraftKings at 3,800. Mark Canha, one of the guys that you mentioned, 4,200. I don't know if you want to play him in cash, but he's definitely an option that is going to be heavily owned.
I think he's playable in cash. Well, I guess he doesn't get on. Well, no, I think he'd be playable. I don't know. I mean, why wouldn't he be playable? Why do you think he wouldn't be? Oh, the ownership not being there? Yeah,
no, the ownership's there for him. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I thought he struck out a ton. So maybe not a guy that's going to put a bunch of balls in play.
20.7% versus lefties.
That's actually not bad. Oh, versus lefty. Yeah, okay, they're going against the lefty. Okay. That's my bad. I was thinking of Canha against a righty.
Yeah, get your splits right, Jake. Come on. You gotta get. I passed you the Excel like a preparation game. I think your projections are probably better, but the Excel prep game. Got my lefty-righty splits. I'm ready to go.
I do have the righty-lefty splits mixed in. It's just like a robot. I just upload all the data and then just see what it spits out. But I actually did do some diving into some pitchers today, so that was nice. Smiley, he was kind of a tough one for me. Speaking of Oakland, just because I don't know what to expect out of Smiley at this point after such a long layoff. Like, I didn't see anything overly impressive in the first couple starts. I didn't see anything that makes me say this guy's going to be terrible. I do know he's a guy that had home run problems. So a red-hot Oakland team with a ton of right-handed power seems like a pretty bad spot to be Drew Smiley.
Yeah. And again, he's another guy, too, where I feel like this is one thing, and this is just my process recently, because I think it's one didn't pay enough attention to, trying to get too cute with stacks and whatever, is really being disciplined with the Vegas totals more so. And I think in this spot, like if he had, let's say, like a 4-point-something run total, I think it'd be a little Drew Smiley maybe not going to get blown up today. With a 5.4 in Texas, I feel like it just all is kind of aligning for Oakland. And maybe they disappoint, but I feel like that's the best possible play for me today.
Yeah. You're going to see, huge totals in Texas a lot. So maybe just in general, not the best place for a guy with home run problems to pitch. If he's fixed those problems, then you got a different story. But based on what we know of him over the last 3 or 4 years, because he hasn't pitched, I don't think he pitched in 2017 or 18. But, that's basically all the sample we have of him is 2 years ago.
Also, the Rays lineup and the Brewers lineup are both out. I think the Rays lineup is pretty much the same as it was expected to be.
Dodgers lineup also out. Did Tampa get an updated lineup? Did someone get scratched?
I don't know. I think it's the same one as we said before. It was updated. I think it's still the same lineup.
All right, I'll plug it in right now and see if anything changed. Yeah, something changed in there.
For the Rays or for the
something in the middle of the order for the Rays. I don't know if Garcia was supposed to be in or what.
I'll tell you right now because I didn't paste that one in yet. So let me pull up Tampa Bay. So where are you, Tampa Bay? Go ahead.
20 more minutes. How have your crunch has been coming along? Or wait, you don't crunch.
I don't crunch. I hand built everything beforehand. Again, baseball. Everybody coming through today. Some of these lineups coming a little late, but I'll allow it. I feel like it was totally reasonable for them to come in at this time. Oh, yeah. Avisail Garcia got bumped up. And Kiermaier. Yeah, I think it was just Avisail Garcia getting bumped up. Oh, and Brandon Lowe got bumped down. Avisail went up. And that's basically it. Kiermaier went down a little.
We need this Houston lineup. That's everything. That's all we're waiting on now. So I can crunch with just one lineup remaining. I think that's not going to be the end of the world. I could always do some late swaps or whatever. But
yeah, when all the good guys get put in last minute, then you're going to be screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not like NBA or even NHL sometimes where you all of a sudden you've got a ton of line changes or late scratches. Flu bug hits the team.
This is a tangent, but whatever. Just a quick one. So for some reason, I can't replace all. Like, it doesn't do it on the first try on Excel now. And as somebody who is ironically spending more time in Excel now that I work in DFS analysis than I ever did in any professional career path, it's really frustrating because I have to take out the letter K so I have the guy's salaries correct in the place I get my lineups from, and it won't replace it on the first try for some reason. It's very frustrating.
What do you mean the letter K?
So it has the prices 3.7K instead of 3,700.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Talk to Josh about that off stream. That's what I suggest. I know what you're talking about. Talk to Josh. He's the Excel wizard. I am not. But I have gotten much better.
Got to figure out some automation stuff. That's the next step in our lives, Jake. Automating everything if we can.
For sure.
Like an episode of Black Mirror if we could.
I don't watch. I saw the first episode and that was enough for me.
You got to watch it. It's actually a pretty good, it portends what the future is with technology pretty well in a lot of ways, and in creepy ways that'll probably be in our lives soon, including appliances run by our own artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Everyone tells me, you got to keep watching that. I tell them, hey, I've got an early NHL 2-game slate. You think I can pass that up? How am I supposed to pass that up?
You don't have time for that nonsense.
Yeah, exactly.
For enjoying other media properties.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nothing in the premium Slack. Premium Slack not as chimey in as they are for basketball, but they're doing their thing. Check them out. A lot of guys still talking about lineups and stuff on premium Slack right now. So use that promo code Live Before Lock. Get in there. Get your premium Slack access. So you could be one of those guys talking about lots of smart things with EMAC in the premium chat. Our boy EMAC, who I will be on with. Is it me? I assume it's me tomorrow. On with EMAC.
Are you guys on the Live Before Lock show?
Presumably.
Okay.
I didn't even look at the schedule this week. I assume it's the same.
I think I'm doing a strategy show. If not, I'll probably do one for NHL. So I'll definitely be busy.
I think we do some swapperoos with Saturdays when you're done with NHL. I think that's how it's supposed to be. But I think for now, I'm just riding straight on Saturday afternoons with our boy Emac. Here is Erod safe? There's a question for you. Is Erod ever safe? Is a question I pose back.
No, yeah, he's not ever safe for me. Like, he's just a guy that perpetually has walk issues, which, I mean, is good and bad for DFS. It's good when he's going to be low owned and maybe in a tougher spot because he does have huge strikeout upside. He's always struggled going deep into games too, like getting past the 5th and 6th inning. I think he's at just under 9K or just over 9K. Yeah, he's 9K flat on DK. So that's doable. I just can't stand playing him when he's going to be big chalk. And what we have him right now looks like he is... Wait, wrong page. Yeah, so he's a top 4 owned pitcher. I mean, it's not crazy, around 20%. That's fine. So I'm okay taking a shot with him. I just would never classify him as safe.
Yeah, I mean, really, this whole Red Sox, it's weird. Like, what were they doing that every pitcher for the Red Sox is starting the year extremely poorly and like a noteworthy way? Like Eovaldi yesterday, we talked about on the show, and like this isn't me touting my touts. I don't even like that word. I hate the word tout. But like Eovaldi just jumped out as a guy who started the year really poorly, and even with the Blue Jays, he got blown up. And it's like he hung in there a little, but he still mostly got blown up. And I don't know what their pitching coach has done, but every guy has started the year hilariously badly. Like. Eduardo Rodriguez starting the year giving up 18 hits per 9 innings, 2.75 whip. So everything looking bad for Erod to start the year. So I would certainly not say he's safe, but I think, this Baltimore lineup shouldn't hurt him, but I would have said the same thing about Toronto with Eovaldi in most spots too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe just the World Series hangover. You saw this with the Cubs, I think, a couple years ago. I don't know. You just never know. It's cold and they're playing baseball. Like, man, it can't be that fun this time of year to be playing. So it makes sense.
And if it's any consolation to anybody who's playing Erod, his Vegas total a little better than it was yesterday for Eovaldi versus the Blue Jays. So under 4, I feel like under 4 for a pitcher, you're usually okay. That's the same reason I don't mind Arrieta. Like 3.9 versus the Marlins, I'll take it. I think there's at least a shot of him not being complete and utter garbage. One can only hope.
As long as you got a shot at it not being complete and utter garbage, you're doing something right in MLB DFS.
That's what I aspire to every day. I write that when I do my daily affirmations into the mirror. I'm like, just don't be utter garbage today, and you'll be fine. And I do that 50% of the time. I have Arrieta in my lineup, but I have a really bad feeling that he's going to get smacked left and right today. But I'm gonna keep it and lose my money. You know what, Manny?
Hey, if you're doing this for entertainment only. And you're comfortable losing. I mean, you should be comfortable losing the amount you enter in every night if you're playing tournaments, especially these top-heavy ones, or close to all of it. But if you're playing the right way, if you're playing to make a profit over the long run, you're probably not going to lose everything in one night, unless you just want to go all in on some teams. You just want to kick back, have a beer, have a vodka soda, and just go all in on your favorite team at low ownership. I think that's also something that people do in DFS. So. As long as you know what you're
I
doing.
like this imaginary person you have drinking vodka sodas and watching
back,
baseball.
Eat Tito's, get some club soda. That's what I'm going to do tonight. There's NHL playoffs going on. I probably won't watch much baseball.
That's healthy drinking. That is healthy drinking if you are going to do that. That's what I advocate for any friends who cut out carbs. Like I usually try not to eat carbs during the week, though this week has not been the best. Drink vodka sodas. It'll change your life. Drink vodka sodas while you're getting hammered at DFS.
Yeah, you acquire the taste pretty quick.
Yeah.
The first, dozen or so, don't go down too easy. But after that, it's just light. It's nice.
The tequila and sodas are their more adventurous cousin, who I enjoy as well when I'm going out.
There you go. I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. All right, we got our lineup. So, what are your crunches? Anything else changing as you've crunched? Are you close to your final numbers over there?
I'm close to the final numbers. So as far as pitching goes, looks like it's going to be a lot of Hap, Carrasco. Man, I am getting to more of your boy Bettis than I'm comfortable with. I think he's come up in the projections as we've gone on.
Deservedly so. What a great pitcher Chad Bettis is.
And then, yeah, so I'm getting to like almost 20% Bettis. That is very, very scary.
That's where I am, Jake. Join the crew. Join the Bettis squad.
Yeah, but if you think about, okay, so how many laps are you playing? 20?
Yep, 20 max.
So that would be like me clicking on Chad Bettis 30 times in a hand-built lineup, which is outrageous. Take the human element out of it, I suppose. That's probably your best bet. I'm getting to some Giolito as well. But I do like Bettis is going to be super low owned. If he somehow gets me 15, and anybody can get you 15 in that park, then I think you're probably okay with that. So
the thing too, thinking about the Vegas total as like a function of how the whole team performs, like Bettis can have an okay day, and the bullpen could get shellacked because the bullpen also sucks pretty bad. So like I think if we're thinking about it, and that's been something I've been trying to incorporate a little more in my process, is trying to figure out how the different moving pieces work and how they get to that Vegas total. And the Colorado bullpen being bad, if that were a good bullpen, I'd be like, well, it's probably Bettis giving up the runs. And I think in this particular spot, their bullpen also not getting strikeouts, also not getting guys to chase, also not doing anything well. And if anything, they've been lucky with their performance so far. I'll justify Chad Bettis in as many ways as I can today. Talk myself into this guy.
Bettis is not my style of pitcher. However, you got to play each slate like it's a new slate. It's daily fantasy sports. It is not season long. So sometimes a guy will make sense. You can play anyone at a certain price and a certain spot and a certain ownership. So all that gets me to some of Chad Bettis, which is terrifying.
Don't Embiid my status. One of the regulars in basketball, so I'll give you a little shout out because I think he's actually expecting a child if I remember correctly. So good,
very nice.
Good for you, Don.
Congrats.
But yeah, he's asking. So 2 questions. One, where were the guys on Keller? And for me, I'll revisit my take. I think he's a guy who's passable. Like he was like the last slate that Jake and I guess not the last slate we did, but one of the last ones we did recently. Wade Miley, I think, was a play worked out for me and for a lot of people where he was just good enough to kind of get through. And I think that's sort of where I view Keller as like he's okay. He's going to throw a lot of innings probably, or at least throw a lot of pitches. And hopefully that translates to a lot of innings. And I think he's good enough on this slate where he's not the trash of Hess and Giolito, who are guys I also have because I'm a dumpster diving type guy for my pitchers. But I do think that he's going to be mostly safe, or the hope is that he's safe as long as the Indians don't turn it around tonight, and I don't see any reason why they would. So that's where I shake out with Keller. But what do you think, Jake?
For who? Oh, Brad Keller. I did not.
Yeah.
I did not get to Keller. Honestly,
Sure.
I didn't really do much research on him. I crossed him off pretty quick on DK. But you mentioned another guy. I'm trying to think who it was now. I have it pulled up on the screen. Okay, Wade Miley. At 7K, I think we didn't really talk about him, but he's better historically against righties. So you see the 2 lefties up at the lefty Malik Smith, like, I don't know, it's Malik Smith. He's not a great hitter. He's just super fast. You see all these righties in this lineup. That might scare some people off, 6 of them, but I've got him as being a better pitcher. At worst, he splits neutral compared to righties compared to lefties. So he can handle all these righties, and you talk about a guy that does limit damage really well.
So the reason I didn't get to Miley today, and he's a guy too who does fit that same criteria, the Mariners just mashing lefties so far to start the year at least. They have an on-base percentage of 400, isolated power of 370 versus lefties, WRC plus of 188. So they're doing everything right now versus lefties, and that could just be matchup based. So it's small sample size for the teams overall still. But that scared me off enough. And the team total is pretty decent, though, supporting Miley. Like a 4.2 run total for Miley isn't the worst. But on this slate where I have some guys who I feel like maybe can get you there, that was why I didn't get to Miley today. But I think your take is pretty fair, too. He's another guy who fits that criteria of being vaguely safe.
Yeah, I mean, as safe as you can be, right?
Yeah, exactly. Would you go with Martinez or Chris Davis for a FanDuel GPP?
JD?
Yep.
JD. I love JD tonight. I've got all the Red Sox. They're by far my highest owned stack. It really isn't close between my second one. So, got to go with JD. I'd be a fraud if I said otherwise.
I think there are a lot more guys who right now who can do damage for Oakland than Chris Davis, and there's enough ways where you can go south where I would also go JD. But I personally have more Chris Davis today. So that's the classic both sides of my mouth speak, but I think that's that's the actual truth. And I have no issue with Martinez, but I just like that stack a lot more. Whereas Boston, I think Martinez more appealing as a one-off.
That is what they referred to in the industry as tout speak.
Yeah. I mean, it ultimately is what it is. Even if you're playing, like, if you're playing 150 plus, like a lot of the guys who are on our staff, or if you're playing 20 for me, like I am today, like I think you're gonna end up with those logical contradictions
I
rather.
agree.
So
Like, Giolito, perfect guy. If you are playing Giolito, you should also be on the Yankees. There's
yes,
no, like literally no doubt in my mind, or not no doubt. There's no question that you should have both sides of that if you're playing 150.
there is no doubt or no question.
Yeah, I
I'll
guess I
say
could
that.
have just kept it at that, right?
No diggity. Also, no diggity, no doubt. Would you go Canha or Freeman? That's an interesting choice.
Freddie. What about you?
Hmm. I would go. Yeah, I'd go Canha.
Okay.
Freeman's a better hitter overall, but I'm going to the stack that I have the most of, and I think Wheeler's a better pitcher. I mean, I'll go on a limb. I think Zach Weaver's a better pitcher than Drew Smiley.
There
So,
you go.
so that would be the reason why.
Only the best
It
takes
wouldn't
here.
surprise me if Wheeler got an okay day out of it. I just don't see how Smiley gets an okay day out of the situation.
That's fair. I think Wheeler's much more likely to succeed than Drew Smiley if we're just talking about raw points, even though he does have a tougher matchup, I think. Braves are probably the toughest matchup for me for a righty.
Manny Garcia in the YouTube chat asking, what do you guys think of the Tampa Bay reliever coming out after Stanek? Guy, well, I guess
Yanni?
which one is it?
Yanni.
I don't even track
Oh,
the
wait.
bullpen days for the Rays anymore.
Isn't it supposed to be Yarbrough? I think they switched
Yeah,
it
that's what
up.
I don't know. Could be Chirinos. So this guy's asking either Chirinos or Yarbrough.
It's supposed to be Chirinos or Yarbrough. Well, if we
I
don't know,
don't know.
then just don't play him, honestly. I like both
Yeah.
Chirinos and Yarbrough as pitchers, and I especially like them when they're coming out of the opener situation where you get Stanek or, last year was Romo, I can't remember. These Rays pitchers, because they just go full blast at their 3 top hitters or 4 top hitters, and then you get to not face those guys in extra time, which is super valuable, and I don't think people realized that early enough last season.
Yeah, I just like to avoid the situation because I find it confusing, and I've had the wrong guy once or twice, and it really just bothers me in a way where I just don't want to subject myself to it, especially with this many games. I guess I could see going there, but I don't know. There's just so many options. Like, I'd rather bite the bullet on one of the other guys who we think sucks but might have an okay day.
I've had the 50% Yanni Chirinos when he didn't come in night, so
Yeah, that was one.
that
Yeah,
one
that was one of my.
hurts.
And who was the third guy they had too? Who sometimes like Matt something?
Uh, Matt.
I think he's on another team now. I know that for a fact. So that's the only reason I'm not looking it up. But
Matt,
they had
I
one
was
other
about to
dude
say
who I
Matt
played one
LeBlanc.
time. They're like, this guy's gonna be the long guy today, and then he wasn't the long guy, and I was just like, are you? And I lost that.
All right, so I'm done crunching. These are my lineups on the screen that you guys are seeing. These are the ones I'm playing. I mean, I don't care. Like, if you copy them, that's not going to matter. They're in conjunction with each other. So it's a portfolio. You see my pitchers here. Weaver, Hap, very flat on the pitchers, actually. Pomeranz. Look at this. Bettis, 20%. So what I do is I take away the bottom 50 lineups, bottom 50 projected lineups. So these numbers will change a little bit. But yeah, this is generally where I'm at. The team stacks tab is kind of a funny one because I've got 17% Boston, 11% Mets, 5-mans.
I like the Mets, man. I think
Yeah.
they look really good today.
Yeah, it's looking good for the Mets. I hope we can get there with them.
I would like them to have a good DFS year because I think people still are going to be on, the Mets stink. Like, people are catching on to Pete Alonso a little bit. But I think besides that, people still think the lineup itself isn't good. But the lineup's been hitting really well to start the year, if nothing else.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's a question from Mike Verderosa in the YouTube chat. I'm playing 6 different pitchers in my 20 max. Does that seem excessive? If it's on FanDuel, that might be a little excessive. If it's on DK, I would think that that's in range with where I am. So I think that's fine.
6 different pitchers in a 20 max, I think on either
Yeah.
slate. In fact, I might even want to use a couple more than 6 on this slate, specifically on DK. I don't have a problem with that on FanDuel. If you're using like one lineup of each of 2 guys, all of a sudden you've got 4 pitchers for 18 lineups on FanDuel. I don't think that's wrong. As long as you're getting different lineup constructions, you're stacking correctly, I think you're going to be fine using a variety of different pitchers on any site.
Yeah, that's fair. I think 6 pitchers to me feels about right for what I usually have on DraftKings. I do think you need to make some choices, but for 20 max. But I think overall you're probably getting enough of a look with that. I mean, you could have 1 or 2 more, but I think if you're getting a 10, that's probably pushing it.
Yes.
You gotta choose sometimes. Matt Andriese, thank you, E-Rush.
Nice.
He's on the Giants now. That is the guy who screwed me over so bad. Matt Andriese, oh, the worst, the worst.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
Here we go. Corey Dobbs, the beat writer for the Rays, just said they will decide on the pitcher based on the score. So be careful with your Rays long relievers.
That's outrageous. So just you are not playing Chirinos. I'm just gonna make sure I don't have him or Yarbrough. Don't play any of those clowns.
No, that's why I'm saying it's just not worth the hassle. Usually, sometimes it is, but I think the amount of times it's not worth it outweigh the amount of times it is.
Right. So I think if we have a stretch where they keep doing this and the Rays play 4 days in a row, and you've got Yarbrough, and then the next night it's supposed to be Yanni, and you can kind of just by deductive reasoning figure out it's going to be Chirinos. I think that's a spot where I'm willing to take him, and I think they always go under-owned when we pretty much know who's coming in. Here, that goes out the window. Do not play Chirinos. There's no reason. Don't play Yarbrough. If you don't know, you do not need a 0 in your lineup. Beeks. Yeah, I forgot about him. What's he doing these days?
All right.
Is he on Detroit?
Is he still on there? He got traded, right?
Yeah, I thought he was on maybe Detroit or Boston. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. He had his moments, or at least his moments where he convinced me that he was going to be a good play.
Yeah.
I don't know if he actually had good moments.
Yeah.
He had one good game. He might have screwed me over one time last year too. Him and Matt Andriese both. They can both go screw. All right, we're locked now. I think so. I think it's 7:05. All right, so we're locked. Let's try something new. We're locked. I think now we can breathe for a moment. What do you think is going to screw you over today, Jake, out of the lineups that you've made?
That is a great question. What's going to screw me over? I don't think it's Boston. I think I'm going to be okay with Boston. I've got a ton of different variations in that stack. I just need at least 3 of them to be very good on this slate. So at least my 3-mans are alive, and maybe get lucky with my 5 and 4-mans elsewhere. So it's probably going to be one of these pitchers. It's probably going to be Weaver. I shouldn't be this heavy on him. He's 36% owned for me, or around there. Like I said, I'm going to eliminate the bottom. I eliminated the bottom 50 in XL. Didn't have time to do it here to get you true exposures, but he's going to be around 30 to 35% for me. And he's just not very talented. Like, it's a good matchup against San Diego. I don't think it's a terrible park or anything. I don't think San Diego is super dangerous, even with Machado. So, I don't know. It's a fine matchup. It's almost too logical for me to play Luke Weaver, though.
I think San Diego's better this year. Like, I feel like if there's going to be a team who I want to target against a lot, I think it's going to end up being Pittsburgh. Like, I'm done with Pittsburgh as a stack overall. But I think San Diego worries me enough. They do have power from enough guys. They have Reyes back in the middle of the order too. There's enough guys who can do damage to a Luke Weaver. I think San Diego's coming along. I don't know if they're a team you want to stack on every slate, but I think if they have a bad pitcher matchup, they can have days like they had yesterday. They had a pretty good day yesterday.
Sure.
So did Arizona, by the way, Sean V. In case you're watching, because I remember my best lineup yesterday had Escobar and some of the boys on the Diamondbacks, and they moved in pretty late. They moved ahead of quite a bit of the field. The team that worries me the most today, honestly, just because of the exposure I have, I'm really heavy on Oakland. I am very, very heavy on Oakland. If Drew Smyly has a monster day, I'm screwed. So you can know that going in. And pitcher-wise, I would say the guy who's going to screw me over the most, probably Pomeranz. I did ride heavy with Pomeranz today.
Yeah, I did end up on 30-ish%, 34% of Pomeranz.
That's where I am too. So it's 3x the field, essentially.
It's just too good of a park. Like, almost everyone's in play for me in San Francisco. Like 60 degrees, it's windy a lot. Like, it's just cold, man. Yeah. Look,
I'm with you. I think it's a bad park, or a good park rather, a bad park for hitters, and a good situation for Pomeranz. And hopefully it goes well, and Colorado doesn't figure things out, because man, everybody there stinks. I had one lineup which could have done really well if they had done anything at all versus Samardzija. They did nothing. Like the top 5 all did absolutely nothing. It was atrocious to watch.
That'll do it.
Hate the Rockies. All right, tomorrow it'll be Jake and EMAC on the Strategy Show. Me and EMAC on Live Before Lock. So we'll have baseball content. You're clear on Sunday too, or are you doing anything Sunday?
I'm off except for projections, but I'll be playing. I'll be in chat, so I'm off. But I'll be doing a few things.
Yeah, so Jake will be doing some NHL content. He'll have the NHL projections and all that, and working for you guys. So check that out because it is that season. I'll have NBA content. I'm actually going to be writing it as soon as we jump off here. So I'll have a column on premium stuff, I guess for premium members rather, on NBA about all the playoff stuff, how to approach playoff rotations. I think Fast Eddie's also going to have some NBA content. He's going to have a video, I believe, coming tomorrow, and maybe some talk in Slack I think he's doing. But keep your eyes peeled for that if you are a premium member. We're doing a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different balls in the air right now for our company, but check it all out. Support us. Jake and I will be back tomorrow, so subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. You'll know when we go live. And use that promo code Live Before Lock if you want to get all this premium content we're putting out there. Get half off your first month on any package. So you get an all-sport package. You can do MLB stuff with us. You can do NBA stuff. Keep doing NHL stuff. Get covered with everything golf, obviously in full swing right now. So check that out with promo code Live Before Lock. Get half off your first month. Whew, any parting words, Jake?
No, except for enjoy the sports tonight. Enjoy the sports this weekend. Join me for EMAC tomorrow. Join me and EMAC for tomorrow's MLB strategy show. That's probably a sign that I am looking at my computer too much. So I'm going to get off of that and go watch some NHL hockey and maybe some baseball as well.
Yeah, so enjoy your weekend, guys, but we'll be here with it for you guys tomorrow. So tune in to us then, and good luck.